and welcome back to ScavTalk, everyone. In today's episode, we'll be going over the recent network optimization patch that BSG did, which was like, what, 12.1232, if I'm not mistaken?
Yes, exactly. That's the one. Then we're going to be discussing 7.62 NATO guns in general. I've been using them a lot recently, and I've been posting a few videos about them, so I thought it's a good time to think about them, given that they fire the big bullet, the M61.
The armor destroyer just gives 0 fricks.
Exactly.
And closing out the show, we'll be discussing my newest Obsession. That's the one. Tarkov Mobile? What? It's poggers. So yeah. The patch. I haven't played since the patch dropped. I was playing before it came out. And then we took too long to get out of Shoreline and I didn't get any to loot. But you know, it's whatever. So I was talking to CZTL about it. And he said he might do some testing since he's got 2 PCs in offline mode. Uses a server. Or co-op offline uses a server. So that could be interesting. It would have been nice to know like this was up and coming, because then, you know, people like yourself or some other people that like testing this stuff, you know, could possibly try to get a good baseline and try to compare. It's a shame we don't have Battle Nonsense, the guy that's like infamous for doing all the network testing and PC optimizations and NVIDIA, you know, G-Sync expert, you know, like I swear if you type in like how to set up NVIDIA G-Sync, he's like the top result and everything. But so yeah, have you played much with the new wipe? What's the general consensus from the Tarkov community?
So unfortunately, as you say, because they didn't announce that anything was coming like this, and it's like life and this patch have just kind of collided in my universe, because I ended up not playing Wednesday or Thursday because I had various like baby commitments to attend to, and so I was pretty much just like editing for 2 days, and so I haven't actually played, which is kind of unfortunate. I mean, what I've seen on Twitter is a bunch of people complaining about how it's bad. I mean,
no freaking way, dude.
I mean, you can take from that what you want, but I don't know. There was let me see if I can find one of them actually, because I didn't have it up before. But there was a couple of people complaining about certain specific issues where they were getting like massive packet loss. So you know, when you in Tarkov, you know, you've got your ping indicator or whatever. When you're lagging, you've just got like high latency or whatever.
Yeah.
And if you're actually losing packets, you get that weird icon, which I don't know. I guess it's kind of like 3 little lines. And then
yeah, I've seen it like once.
Yeah, it only comes up pretty rarely. It's like, you know, if your cable's loose or something, and you accidentally yank the internet cable out or something like that. That's kind of the main complaint that I've seen. I know that Iron Fist posted something on the 13th. I knew I'd seen it somewhere, and he posted that he was getting this within some raids. And then there were a couple of people who were posting too that they were getting like insane frame drops, like crazy frame drops for no reason. So maybe that's what this, because they actually posted a patch this morning, was it? Or was it yesterday? I actually forget. They did like a little technical update.
Somewhere in that window, I believe.
Yeah. I think it might have been this morning even, but anyway, well, whatever. So I saw there was somebody who, they had a clip up and they were going through customs, and then they turned around the corner and then the PC was just like literally 3 frames of slideshow, and then you just hear them dying because there's the PMC around the wall, which kind of sucks. So seems like some teething problems, I suppose, but I haven't seen anything about it since yesterday, I guess. No one seems to be complaining about it a lot. No one seems to be saying that it's really good. So right now, I don't really have any strong conclusions to be made. I mean, the 4 points that they wrote about in their tweet was, they said, we've reworked the service synchronization for player positioning, reduced network packet processing latency between the client and the server, which to me, that first point, I mean, and this is the thing, I could be wrong because I'm not an expert on networking and I'm not an expert on this kind of stuff. But when I was contemplating making a video about desync, doing something a little bit more in depth, just like trying to measure it
Mm-hmm.
and that kind of thing. A bit like what you said CZ was going to look at. You have, I don't know, I actually don't have two PCs that I'm able to use, unfortunately. But that would be a good way of doing it. Just like when you press the button, when does it appear on the other side? Because I feel like often I've spoken about this before on here actually. I often feel that the desynchronization between the two clients it tends to be a lot more than your latency, or it seems to be at least. Just that's based upon when you suddenly see somebody that wouldn't be able to see you. Say you suddenly lean peek.
Okay.
It would take a bit of time for them to see you and then you to get the message back. And
Of
that
course.
time seems to sometimes be in like this just 300, 400 millisecond region, which is really, really high. Like I peaked out one time, and this is why I was starting to think about it, because like I peeked out, saw a guy, and Pete leaned back in again, turned around and started to walk off, and then I died, which is fine, right? The guy shot me on his screen, that's okay, and by the time it came to me, I was miles away. But having a ping of like 50 doesn't justify the difference in timing. You know what I mean? It was like half a second later or whatever. So to me, from my educated guess, is that reduced network packet processing latency between the client and the server is to help with that effectively, like trying to speed up the processing of those packets as they're coming back and forth between different clients. I hope anyway. They said improved network stability during close quarters gunfights. I don't really know. I mean, that's just kind of whatever. That could mean anything.
Yeah, I'm a little I'd be really interested to know what that entails, but of course, probably won't get that. But it's just like, yeah, I don't know. That doesn't really. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. And then they said fix the instances where some shots may not register or may have not registered when burst firing at close ranges, which is a really interesting statement.
Yeah.
I don't know whether that refers to burst fire specifically, like the fire mode burst fire,
Right.
or whether that just means like firing off some bullets. I'm actually not sure.
And with the clause of at close ranges.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not really sure what that then relates to be honest, whether it's some other bug or whether it's just an overall contributor towards why people feel that there's a lot of desync and hit registration not happening and that kind of thing. Because yeah, even if you had, I guess as a player, you can't really tell, right? Because it's either desync or it's something else. And maybe there's a bug in there that we would never be able to tell as players because there's shots that are missing or there's something that's happening in that particular scenario that's not working properly. I'm not really sure, but it's interesting that they said that. And then they said fixed a situation where a player with a poor network connection could suddenly appear from around the corner. Which
I have seen like rubber banding, but it's like extremely rare. You know, it's like the classic memory is like some guy with like that's like a hatchling or is like extremely low gear and he's just like, you know, updates every like half a second to a second, and you just like you can't kill him because he's just like randomly moving. It's so like annoying. But that's like extremely rare. Like I said, I think I was like the one instance I can think of is like it was either a hatchling or like a super low kid on like interchange. And yeah, he was like running up the escalators, and I couldn't kill him, but I wanted to kill him because freaking he's gonna shove loot up his butt or whatever he's trying to do. It's just
yeah. So yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I guess if someone's ping is like flicking around all the time, to be honest, kind of like mine does, then that could cause some funky stuff, especially if it's unstable. I guess like if you've got a ping of 300 constant, and that's like one thing, and that will contribute towards the general desynchronization that you see on your side or what someone else sees. But if you're kind of like fluctuating around from 50 up to 250 down to 50 up to 100, whatever, that could cause some weirdness. But I don't know. We're gonna have to see, I think, how it ends up feeling, whether people stop seeing people skittering about and stuff. I mean, this is the thing. It's so hard to know what they've done. It's so hard to know what we're supposed to test here. And this is often where people get irritated with BSG about the beta test, because it's like, what are we supposed to do with this information? Like half of these sentences are kind of cryptic. I'm not really sure as a analytical tester, but a non-expert of networking. I'm not sure like what I'm supposed to take from this other than like you're working on it. Okay, that's great. That's fine.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like, I don't know how to help. Maybe they don't want us to help. I'm not sure. Maybe they don't want us to help in this particular instance. Maybe they just want us to tell them what we see. But often you find, I mean, this maybe this isn't the case for most people, but often if you understand the system a bit better and how it functions, then your feedback is more
effective.
I mean,
you can get better
effective.
feedback.
Exactly, because you're like, oh well, I'm seeing this or that, and that might be because of this or that. I don't know. Maybe they don't want that. I'm not sure. Anyway, we're gonna have to see. It seems to have caused some teething issues. They did post a little mini patch, so maybe that fixes some of the problems that have been introduced. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. And as I said, I haven't actually played for the last 2 days, so I haven't been able to test it out myself really. I've like wandered around in offline, mate, and that's pretty much it, just to like test things. So we will see. That one is the jury's out. Let's put it that way. The jury's out. So I'm going to keep an eye out on Twitter and seeing what other people say. But it seemed to be a couple of people who were complaining. It wasn't like the entire community exploded. I went on Reddit and there were some threads about to the guy I met in Ollie and all this stuff. So I was like, okay, well, it's not like, you know,
yeah,
it's not the game breaking event that everybody's like super butthurt about it. So
okay.
I guess there's that. It seems like there's some there's some issues here and there, but it remains to be seen whether it's actually helped or fixed anything. I don't know yet.
I mean, I just find it interesting that close quarters fight was like mentioned twice, and then you have like suddenly appearing around the corner. That's kind of like the, you know, the guy just like rush you and you just die type of thing up close. So like maybe I'd be interested to see if like some more seasoned players, you know, have their own experiences. Like, yeah, it feels better because I do like feel there are times where you just push a guy and it's like he doesn't react. Like his reaction is so delayed, and then you see those like clips where like two people are shaming, you get to see the two different perspectives. One guy's holding the angle, the other guy gets pushed, and like the other guy gets like the guy's pushing gets like a second and a half of like free shots on the guy. It's just so if they reduce any of that, that helps a lot with, you know, growing pains of playing the game. So yeah,
exactly. I mean, the close range stuff is where you really see it, because as we've debated previously about being outside, and like desync doesn't matter so much outside, because you kill them on your screen, they're not in cover. If they're still not in cover, then it doesn't really matter and you can't really tell. It's only if you're around rocks or trees or whatever that then it starts to have an impact. It's like terrain that causes the problems, which is why the close range stuff is so important, because you're behind corners and then not behind a corner and doing a peek and then running around and running past a doorway and all this kind of stuff. It's like the players are occluded so many more times, so much more often, and in intricate ways as well. That's why everybody notices it there too.
Yeah.
So
we
will see. We will see. And the other thing that they said they fixed is the incorrect scav behavior when engaging USEC PMCs. So this was the scavs were not fighting USECs, apparently. I think once you aggroed them, then they would start to fight you. Something along those lines.
So Aaron did a video on it, and I think from what I gathered, it was tied to rogue aggro.
Oh, weird.
So if you went on Lighthouse and aggroed a rogue, then scavs were hostile to you for like the next 3 raids. Like whatever the freaking, it like somehow the wires got crossed and it, you know, affected the scavs as well. So it's just weird.
How does that even happen?
I don't know.
How does it even happen?
Maybe
I didn't notice, to be honest, because I just shoot all the scavs immediately.
Right. Yeah. And that's the thing is like you would keep in
aggro them and be in the yeah. Exactly, because half the time when you see the scavs in the first place, they're just wandering.
Right.
And then you just shoot one in the head.
Right.
And then they'll go, oh, Slajui, and that's it. So it didn't seem any different to me. I think I had one occasion maybe where I'd had a couple of raids where I didn't really see anybody, and there was a scav that came close enough that normally they'd spin around and make some kind of voice line, but it didn't. It didn't seem to, and I was like, oh, maybe that's the bug. I don't know, but I was on the scav extermination, so it hardly made any difference to me, to be honest with you. But yeah, the clips were quite funny. People just like stood next to scavs, being like, "Hello," and they're just wandering around as if you're a player scav. Really weird. So apparently that's fixed. The only other Tarkov related piece of news that I saw this week was Hayes got engaged. I saw that on Twitter about half an hour ago. I wished him congratulations. This is how much news we have going on in the game
like
right now.
the bottom of the barrel, too. It's like EFT streamer got engaged, guys. Like, Tarkov, it's great.
I like Hayes though, so
yeah.
Congratulations to him and his missus.
Congrats, of course.
To be missus. So. What I wanted to talk about then was the 7.62 NATO guns, because people talk a lot about the mutant and the RD and blah, 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 blah. And there's a, an argument to be had about which is best between 7.62 BP weapons and those other ones. And it primarily comes down to kind of like full auto or not, really, I think. You can't really pre-fire with a semi-weapon that effectively. You can, but it's not the same. It's not quite the same as having an RD with a drum. But for me, the ability to have M61 is honestly nuts for M62 NATO weapons. And now that we've added so many, because like on the BP side, like how many guns actually are there? There's the AKMN platform.
Right.
You've got the RD and the mutant.
The 103.
And the SKS. And the 103. But the 103, I mean, they're so similar. And they don't get anywhere near they don't get meta because they don't have the 308 adapter. So it's really just like the AKMN and its derivatives, the mutant, the RD, and that's it, right? So it's basically those three. Whereas like within 7.62 NATO, it's kind of I find it kind of interesting because there's so much choice now. There's so many guns in there. Like you've got the Hunter and the RFB, which are obviously the budget choices. And I've had some arguments with people about why a few people do choose the Hunter still, which is kind of interesting. But I still think that 99% of players choose the RFB because it's basically just better for what you want and cheaper. Well, the expense, it's cheaper in terms of like bang for buck.
You get right, you get more.
Like you spend a tiny bit more and you get way more.
Yeah.
But then in terms of the meta guns, and this is the reason why I was interested, because I've been going through pretty much all of them, and I started kind of last wipe. Like at the end of last wipe, I was going through like the 7.62 MDR, the Scar H, like using all the different combinations of that. And then this wipe, I've been looking at the RSAS, been looking at the G28, been looking a bit more at the SR, because I didn't really use the SR last wipe. I used it the wipe previous to that, just because I'd used it a bunch already. And it's kind of fascinating, just the differences between, and the M1A, obviously, and the M1A. And I think that section of weaponry is, I mean, there aren't many changes in the game right now, right? But that section of weaponry is probably the one that's changing the most. And it's sort of the most interesting to me. Yeah, because of the bands. And that changes the mathematics a bit, and it sort of reshuffles things around. And I don't know did we talk about this before? Where
a little bit.
I think we talked a little bit before about the RSAS in particular. Basically, the fact that everything else was down here. You have like the RFB is really like the baseline, and then before you had the SR and the M1A, and then the RSAS like all the way up here. But now because all the good guns have all shifted higher up in the tier, it now costs you, what is it for an SR now? It's like 110k, something like that. And that's if you're efficiently sourcing your dollars, I think. It's like 105, 110k, something like that, which is it makes a big difference versus the 60k you used to just be able to grab it off the flea market.
Which was insane.
Yeah, it was nuts. It was nuts. And so now the RSAS is kind of a bit more compelling. I've been looking at the G28, and that's kind of cool. Like the MDR doesn't look that expensive now, relative either. The M1A's got some like crazy barters. But actually, first off, like, which is your favorite? Like, if you were gonna pick a gun to use, just generally, let's say you just like going to interchange or something.
Yeah.
Like, which one do you normally use? Like, what would you go for?
I mean, historically, it would have been the SR25 or the MDR. But now, like, I don't really know, like, probably the MDR or I haven't used a lot of the RSS, but I think the MDR is just kind of better. Even though it has more recoil, the versatility of it is just really good because it has like extremely high reset the center time comparison to all the other DMRs. And then it has full auto and it has really high ergo. So it's like, it's not like it's, I don't know. It's just you put a 6x on it and it's just, or 1-6, and you just, in the M61, you're kind of just like good at every range. You know what I mean? It's kind of nutty. So like I would probably like with a lean to like MDR, but
yeah, I don't think that's an unfair assessment, to be honest. Like the MDR is pretty good. I remember when I made a video about the Scar H versus the MDR and went through everything, because I was like, there's going to be a way to make the Scar H work. Like, there's got to be a way to make this thing work, because the MDR is great, but as you say, it doesn't have amazing recoil. It's all right. Like it's okay. You can deal with it, and it's completely fine in semi. Like, don't get me wrong, it's totally fine in semi. Like all of them are. Anything. I can't remember what it sort of gets to. If you just put on a decent-ish suppressor and one of the foregrips, I think it gets to somewhere around 85 or like 87 or something. It's like high 80s, I think, which is on the high end of the range for those kind of like top tier guns. There's also the SA58, by the way. I forgot about that one, but nobody uses that because,
yeah. I honestly think you're better off just using M1A for drum mag. Like if your reason for like using the SA50 is like, oh, I can full out of a drum mag, I just feel like M1A, as much as I love the SA58, sorry, I just have to go on a rant about it because, God, they buried that gun on the ground. Like, it's like trash ergo, trash recoil. Like, you just can't do it. Like, you try to build like a high ergo gun, you might as well just buy an MDR or SR25 or whatever. It's just like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's like the only use for that thing now, it seems, is you put the drum on it, you put a laser on it, you never ADS, and you use it on factory or in CQB, and you just use it for like the intense DPS, because it is,
right.
It kills people pretty quick. It's like 700 RPM,
something like that. Yeah.
and in that caliber, it's actually kind of nutty. But yeah, it's complicated further out. I've tried. It's hard. It's really, really hard, and that's the thing. You can't spend the money to fix it. There's no viable way of fixing this gun with cash. Like, you can spend as much money as you want on it, right? But like the critical kind of like curves of like recoil versus ergo just don't let you get to a place that matches the other weapons. I think that's the issue.
Not cheap either.
No, like, it's really expensive.
Yeah, and like what makes it even worse is they lock the cash purchase from Peacekeeper behind a quest. And I think it's the one where you got to kill scavs on Lighthouse on the chalet, like 25 of them or something ridiculous. And I'm just like, dude, I'm never doing that. It's like, I'm just not doing that.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of nuts. Yeah, it's funny. I think one thing that kind of inspired me to look at the whole class again was the weight stuff that I was looking at with the bolt actions and about arm stamina and that kind of thing, and also about how it ends up like swinging, because lots of people really, really love the M1A. And I was building one the other day, like a meta one, just to kind of have a look at it and test it out. Dude, if you like kit that thing out, even with a 20-round magazine in the damn thing, it's like 7 kilograms. Like, can you believe it? It's insane. It's like the heaviest gun. That's like the SAS build with the long barrel. Even with like the Thunder Beast and just a Voodoo and a 20-round mag in it, the guy's like 7 kilos. And so when you try to aim in, it's like, and then comes back into the center again when you first ADS. So it's like a gun that you can get the recoil to something insane. That hardly moves when you fire it, but like it's kind of offset by the fact the return time's not great on that one. So it's sort of a balance. It's like a weird balance, right? Because it's like it feels floaty, but the reticle doesn't really go very far. So you kind of want to spam fire it, but then at the same time, you don't really want to use it in a kind of offensive way that much, because the ADS kind of feels a bit crappy. I don't know. There's a ton of people out there who really, really love the M1A. I've never really got it. I've always been on Team SR, like always, even back before.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the only like case I see where it like shines is if you go like pure ergo recoil, like you use the blast mitigation and like probably like you put all the meta parts on there, right? But you go like a balance build and then a drum mag and then like an EOTech, and it's just like, spam mouse one, they die. But I
Yeah.
like you said, the return center isn't great. So like, and the weight's bad. The ergos. If you put like a suppressor, like the ergo kind of starts hurting with like the scope and everything, and it's not like I prefer it like that. But
Yeah, I mean, using the BMD version with the 30 rounder does feel really good.
yeah,
I will say. You know, you just go for like the short barrel and stuff, and just BMD it up. Yeah, I mean, you don't. To be honest, you don't even need to do that, but you can go long barrel BMD and it's fine.
mhm.
Do you have to go? Actually, can you even put the
I don't
BMD on
think
the
you
short
can.
one? I feel like you can't.
No.
Yeah, I feel like you can't. So yes, you go, and you don't really need that difference in ergo if you're not suppressed anymore, because it makes such a huge difference now. After they changed some of the different ergonomics. Dude, I was looking. This is like slightly off topic, but I was looking at the AXMC, the 338 Lapua Bolty. The suppressor for that thing has got minus 30 ergonomics. Like basically, no matter where you end up, it
Yeah,
just puts you to naught.
I was
Like
look,
it's
I was
super funny.
looking and I was like, I can't get even one ergo on this thing, like +1. But nope, it's funny.
Yeah, it is pretty funny. It is pretty funny. So yeah, I don't know. I've always been on Team SR because I felt like with the M1A, it's kind of all or nothing. I feel like you're like SAS M1A or bust,
Yeah,
because partly because of the barter. The barter's there, so it makes it really economic. If you slowly just, you know, cream Wilstons off the market at like 5k or something, and you're just looking out for it, you just slowly, and then you build this thing for 90k or whatever. Like it's very cost effective. And so,
well,
but you wouldn't really build it another way, would you?
yeah, because the other cheaper builds, like what you're getting, you're not like you're basically paying more for less. Is like one way of looking at it. Like you could spend just a little bit extra and get like way more stats. So I just not do that every time, unless
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I mean, like if the depending on the wipe, because that Atlas one, I think you showed it in one of your videos, the Atlas muzzle brake, it is actually pretty good
Yeah,
when the
not bad.
market's like in the right spot. Like early wipe, it's gonna be expensive, but like later, mid wipe, late wipe, it gets really cheap. So yeah, you can do like a little something, but I don't know. Just my
Yeah, I've tried it. I mean, I've used just like a style M1A
God,
before. I think you came into my stream when I was doing it. I think I was running like the Archangel stock with the Atlas.
yeah.
On
Oh,
the,
that's the build I've
front,
ran before. I like that build. Yeah,
which is kind of fun. You can make it for a
blue laser.
like is it? I didn't have one on, but you can do. But I think I think you can make it for like 115k or something. Like it's not that bad. Like it's a big jump versus the RFB, which is why like what's the point? It's like double the price for basically the same functionality. Right. Which is why no one bothers, because you don't get the recoil advantages of the M1A because you're still at 100 and something recoil. I think it's a bit better, but it's like 120, so all the scopes are blacking out anyway, or you have just like so much jump when it actually happens. Like because interestingly, the RFB actually has quite good centering time. So it kind of makes up for the fact that it jumps so high. Like you can't make it not jump loads, but the M1A you can. But that's the thing. If you keep the recoil really high, then it's like floating off in the atmosphere while it's like trying to come back down to the center of where you fired, which kind of sucks. And that was partly why I always quite liked the SR, because it always felt to me a bit more like an M4, like modding an M4. A lot of the parts are kind of similar, and like the stocks are kind of the same, and you can slowly scale up. You can either just like buy the thing, and put the AFG grip on and a suppressor, and a better stock, and you're kind of good to go. And then once you get mechanic 4, then you can put the advanced tube in there, and then the MOE carbine, and again probably still the AFG, and you can slowly upgrade suppressors. But you can kind of run ones that are like 95 recoil, and then 80 recoil, and then 60 recoil when you start getting your traders up. There's like lots of different builds. So as I feel that was the issue for me, was the M1A is like 7 kilo monster, or you just don't use it, which kind of put me off. I quite like the scaling. Excuse me. I quite like the scaling of the SR, where you can mod it to how you're comfortable and like where you are in the wipe and that kind of thing. Although a lot of that has gone away now because of the prohibitive entry cost. So it's like min modding it is not as worth it anymore,
Yeah.
Shame.
I mean, yeah, you might as well just go for the RSS or the MDR, right? I can't, or even the M1A if that's your cup of tea.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, so the RSS is one I've been playing with a lot recently. I've never really dug into it before because it never
Right.
made sense at all. Right, it
Yeah.
was so out of this world, crazy expensive compared to everything else.
It's a
I
flex
never really
gun.
thought there was any point. Yeah, and I'd hardly used it before, and I actually really like it now. I do. I don't know why, because it's not really my style. Like it's quite heavy. It's not as heavy as the M1A. Like the build that I was looking at that was 7 kilos for the M1A is like 6 kilos for the RSAS. It's it's all right, but you can use the medium barrel version on it, and it's actually pretty good. Like the ergo's
Yeah.
not bad. Um, you kind of want to put all the stuff on,
Yeah.
if you know what I mean. Like
Yeah.
you kind of want to really eke it out because
Right.
when you've got a suppressor on it, the ergo does drop quite a bit,
Yeah.
and your ADS speed does suffer. So you kind of want to go all the way because you want to keep the RSS handguard on. You don't want to be like changing that out because it's like best in slot anyway. But and the gas tube, but you kind of want to like put the best in slot suppressor on the
Hmm.
PRS QDC thing. You also want to put on like you don't want to just put on some cheap foregrip. You kind of want to actually go for either the SE5 or the Cobra and like really get that last piece of ergo, and then also stick on like the two Chris sights for like +1. Like it's the only gun that I've ever thought that made sense on. Like most of the time, it's like people are just like, "What about the two Chris sights for +1 ergo?" And I'm just like, "Ugh, like who cares?" Whereas I do actually think it matters on the RSAS because you go from like if you do all the little tweaks, I think you go from like 43 ergo up to like 49 or like 50 ergonomics. Is like adding all those little bits makes like 7 points of difference. And I personally feel like I haven't actually done any testing on this, but I feel just in my soul that going that 40 to 50 ergo is kind of like it feels critical to me on a lot of weapons. It goes from kind of feels sort of bad to actually feeling kind of all right. It's like if you take an M4 from like 70 to 80 ergo, like no one cares. And if you take a weapon like the SA58, you take that from 0 to 10 ergo. Also, again, it doesn't matter because it's just trash in both configurations. Whereas I feel like because it's in the middle, it's like 40 to 50. I feel like it makes sense. I feel like it makes sense. CZTL in chat saying like the 2-iron sight weight outweighs the gun ergo gain, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it does because the weight of the Chris sights is so low. They're the two lowest sights that you can get, and I think with everything else, like whether it's worth it for the money, I think is a different question, right? They're like 3K
Yeah.
each. It's like is that actually worth it? But I just think in the combination with everything else, you want all of the parts together to make the RSAS work.
Yeah.
But it feels, I mean, it's so solid. It's like it's actually got a good centering time on it, as well as getting to low recoil. And that
Right.
combination is really nice. Like it's not too far one way or the other. Like I find that with the MDR, like it's nice, but the recoil is kind of high and makes up for it with its convergence. Whereas the M1A is like super low return to center, but you can make the recoil super low. Whereas the RSS is kind of a bit of both. So if the gun doesn't move, it also comes back to the center quickly. Like it just it feels good to use. And I've been using it a lot recently, and I've had more insane shots with this gun than I've ever had with any other gun. Where it's just like something just clicked and just feels right. I don't know what it is. There's like a ton of times just like seeing somebody and just turning around, just headshotting them straight away with this thing. Like that doesn't normally happen to me. So it's been pretty good, but it is quite pricey. It is quite pricey. Even still, like it's a good step up again versus everything else. But at this point, the wipe doesn't really matter so much. So it's definitely an interesting one.
Yeah, like I said, I haven't really used that much. I mean, one thing basically what you were saying, I'll just reiterate, is that it's kind of like, I feel like it has similar stats as the SR25, except that it has a little bit less ergo and a little bit more recoil control. And because of that, you have to beef up the ergo a bit. Well, you don't have to, but like you kind of want to. Like you put like a 22-inch barrel of the suppressor. Like, dude, it's like you can do. You remember back when like I can't remember which patch it was, but there was some patch where they made some changes and like the RSS recoil you could get to like 34 or something, but it had like 0 ergo and like no food after midnight. Had a bill where you just left the cannon on there. and it's like 0 ergo, but the thing just like didn't move. It was funny. But
You got like
anyways,
the canted bug thing.
yeah,
Back when that happened.
I still don't know if that's a bug or feature. I mean, CZTL's talking about chat. It's the problem with that is like it's so hard to test because it's like where do you cut off the timing? You know, because technically you can shoot at any point, and then like you have to determine like I don't know, that part's weird because like some of the guns, like the heavier the gun, I'm pretty sure anyways, the heavier the gun, the longer the animation is, where like the gun swings up to the left and then it resets. So I don't know. It's a weird one. But
Yeah, it makes it tough. I know Tayoff did a video about that. I don't know if that's how you pronounce his channel, but that's how I always pronounce it. But he did one about that and came to the conclusion that it wasn't the case, and that it just looks like it because of the to do with the distance that it has to travel, so it looks faster, and so we perceive it as being quicker, even though it's the same time overall, but it's got further to travel or something like that. But as you say, it's notoriously hard to actually test, and these things kind of depend on the gun as well. So
there's also
it's kind of hard.
like maybe this is what he was saying, but FOV and like how you have like the guns FOV versus the world FOV, and I think that's how it works. And there's like I don't know. I've been freaking Spectator 6 did some videos on it, and it's just like, dude, this stuff is just like FOV part C -9. You know, here's the following information that I have to come up with. It's like because it's really weird stuff because you can see like at different FOVs the gun, like the sight's in the same exact position. Well, like the sight picture is the same, but like the gun has like morphed a bit. You know, like parts of it are like bigger or smaller or whatever the case may be, depending on the FOV. And it's just like, you know, the position has to be the same every time, no matter the FOV. But then that affects like all the elements around it. Like it's just a weird, crazy hodgepodge thing going on. But it makes sense why they would do it based off how they design the game. Otherwise, you would just get into these weird cases where like you have the gun would be like stretched out, you know, if you had like high FOV, and then you go to ADS and like your sight's all the way forward, and it's like this little tiny reticle, or I guess it would be in real life it should be a big reticle, but I guess anyways.
Yeah, you know what? That's a particular field that kind of I just I don't understand properly FOV and its like implications on the game. I don't really understand that properly, if I'm going to be honest. Like, I know what FOV is, right? I know I know broadly what it does, but from you know, I'm not a coder, and I've seen some weird bugs with FOV, things like, you know, the laser that like comes out at like a weird angle out of the gun and stuff like this. If you like don't do it right, there's like some bugs like ages ago that I found on Reddit and stuff. And it's like how the calculations actually function from a programming perspective, like a mathematical perspective, which is something that like, you know, I can imagine myself reading about at some point, but like I have never put any time into it. And it's one of those topics that I don't fully get like the ramifications. Like if somebody said, oh, if you change the FOV and this is the situation, here's the scope setup and here's like what will happen? Like I wouldn't be able to answer you off the top. You know, don't have that intuitive understanding of the system. So it's kind of interesting to me, especially when we have changes in perceived recoil because of FOV. It's actually something that I want to look at because I get asked like quite often about, oh, hey, did you see if you put this random, normally it's the AKMP night vision iron sight. If you put that on the gun, then it changes it completely, and the recoil's like completely different, even though it doesn't have any recoil stats on it. Like I tested that one time with some people in Discord because it's something to do. It was something to do. Like, I don't know. Sometimes people come up with different stuff, and I'm like, oh, I've tested this before, and it's because of their FOV, and I'm using whatever I can't remember now, 64 or something, and then they were using like max FOV, and because it counts the AKMP as a 1x, then it changes the way that the FOV works or something, and so it dramatically reduces the recoil versus like the stock irons. And we tested that one time because it made no difference to me like at all. And it made a huge difference for them because they sent me the video and I changed my FOV and then I saw the difference, right? Even though the actual real recoil didn't change at all.
Right.
Like the spray pattern was like under the gun, even. Like it was insane.
Yeah.
But then sometimes when people like ask me stuff about this as well, and they're like, "Oh no, I found this thing," and I'm like, "Yeah, well, I think it might just be this," and they're like, "No, it's not FOV, it's something else." And I'm like, "Dude, I don't freaking know. Then I'm no idea." Like there seem to be a few of these little like issues about I don't know at this point like which ones are still there, which ones aren't there, whether FOV like does zeroing, does that make any difference now? Like some of these things have been fixed, some haven't been fixed, maybe some were fixed but they've come back and then no one's reported it because it's quite technical, and the people who originally found the bugs just can't be bothered to report the stuff anymore. I don't know, I'm not sure anymore. But
I don't think it's necessarily a bug. I think it's more so just the way they done everything. Like normally, if you remember, like boomer shooters, when you change like the FOV, you could go like these really high FOVs and you get like this fisheye effect, but like your gun and everything would be like stretched out. Your arms would be like way out here. In some cases, you could go your FOV so high that you could see like clipping into the arm, like the arms are just floating out. But Tarkov doesn't do that because it keeps the like player gun and arms like 1-to-1. At least it tries to. And then when you ADS, you're like the camera like physically moves to a location, but like,
and the FOV changes too, right?
It
because your field of view gets tighter.
It does. It does. Like there's a zoom
and a zoom
and
at the same time,
and a FOV change based off your normal FOV, if I'm not mistaken. But it just does some really weird things, and like higher FOV, your sights, like the front of the gun, like is more aggressive, I guess, is like one way of putting it. So like it looks like you have more recoil. And then on lower FOV, it's like a lot more smoother. It's like you can. It's weird, but yeah. Anyways, if you want to like look into it, if you're curious, I mean, I would love to be able to switch between like 60 or what is the lowest, 50 and like 70. Like just have like a hotkey. That'd be like if you ADS, you just like automatically switch to 50 because that'd be so much better. But Spectator 6, go check out his YouTube. He did a series of videos on FOV. It's pretty interesting stuff.
That's cool. Maybe I'll actually look at that first.
Yeah, you should.
And then have to think about it because I haven't seen those videos. So I'm going to write that down for myself. Otherwise, I'm going to forget.
Yeah, I'm curious about
that could be kind of interesting.
Curious about the iron sight thing.
That was really test that. That was really weird. Yeah, it was like the AKMP rear sight. If you used it on the rear sight and you had max FOV, then the perceived recoil went from it was awful without it, and then it was like normal with it. But if you use any holographic, it's like the same. It also does it. Like it was very strange. I have actually been tempted to play on like min FOV in general. I'm not sure now. Like, are there any other downsides that you're aware of other than like the obvious ones that come with minimum FOV, which is that you can't see as much? Like, are there any other like bug downsides? Like, I can't quite remember.
No, I mean, like, not really. That's kind of the main. Like for me, it's whatever. Like they do it weird. I think it's vertical or maybe it's horizontal.
I think it's vertical FOV, and it's like different to everybody else.
Yeah,
everyone else in the whole industry seems to talk about horizontal FOV, and these guys talk about vertical, which is why the numbers are so low, right?
Because which would be, what is that ratio?
I don't know if it just works with the screen monitor, but horizontal FOV, I can probably find it.
I would assume it's
horizontal vertical field of view. Well, I guess it depends on so if you're 16:9,
right,
and your horizontal FOV is 90, which is I guess the default in most games, then your vertical FOV is 59.
So this would be like somewhere in the ballpark of like 80 something.
We're going to minimum FOV.
Yeah, because it's 50 like vertical. 50.
So that's 79.
Jesus, dude, because I remember playing when I first played a game, and I just felt like I was like claustrophobic. Everything was like so zoomed in. Everything was big. Like it was so like unnatural. Yeah, that's why I would only want 50 when I'm ADSing, so I don't get that weird feeling when I'm moving, because I just feel like so like like a alien, dude. Like I'm not a human, you know. I feel so detached from like the simulation of the video. It's weird. I can't describe it.
It's also like one of those weird fever
Ugh.
dreams where like you're trying to run, but you don't go anywhere,
Yeah,
you know?
you're
Because
like
like when
really
you're
slow.
like
It's so
it's that
weird.
really super weird effect, isn't it? When you're
Yeah.
low FOV, where you just like don't go anywhere. Like I think I usually play like normal games at 110 if I'm given the option, usually,
Hmm.
and that would relate to 78. And in Tarkov, I play at 96, I guess, is the equivalent, which sort of makes sense. But yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I've been very tempted because in other games like COD and stuff, it matters a lot more having that peripheral vision, being able to swing around more easily, left, right, like see people like that. Whereas in EFT, I feel like a lot of the time you're kind of like going through. It depends on how you play, but you know, going through the undergrowth, like hearing some shots, like looking in the distance for people and stuff. I feel like in those situations, which is probably like more of my situations than not, I would actually benefit from having the lower FOV instead, just for having bigger targets on screen, being able to see people more clearly, especially because my monitor's not that large. So I feel like maybe that would be good. And you
Yeah.
probably get used to the feeling of it, right? After you play it for a bit. I don't know how
Maybe
it would
you
feel in CQB though.
maybe you give it a go and let me know. I just I could not. Like I probably like I can do 90, but dude, anything below that just it yeah. I mean the other
Yeah.
benefit would be that you get better performance because you have less on your screen to render, so it's
Mm.
I don't know, give
Maybe
it a
as
shot.
well. Yeah.
Because
I feel like you probably don't get from my like limited understanding of how that works. My guess would be that you only save a few frames because of the reason. The flip side being that when you go from like a lot of people said you go from 1080 to 1440p, you only drop like 3 or 4 frames or something if you're CPU bound because the GPU just steps up and just takes on the
yes.
extra load. So maybe it doesn't help that much. I don't know. We'll have to see.
Yeah, I mean Tarkov is a CPU
Yeah.
bound game, but
It is. It is. I mean, maybe that's like it's always a video. I played in min FOV for a week, and this is what happened.
dude, that's a great one.
It's a good video.
You need the
And maybe I'll do
thumbnail.
it.
The thumbnail is like a PMC and there's like you do just like some camera
Or the
warping.
fishbowl or
Yeah, yeah.
something.
It's just like it's just like 50 FOV. It's just like warped his face around.
That's funny. Maybe we'll see. We'll see. Have a think about it. But yeah. So that I don't know how we ended up getting onto that.
I don't
Don't
either.
really know how we ended up getting onto that. We like deviated wildly talking about that. But yeah. So we talked about the SR. We talked about the RSAS. We talked a bit about the MDR. Like the MDR is good, and I meant to say this before, but I got sidetracked. Like the video I made about the MDR versus the SCAR, like somebody did rightly point out that the MDR is so short. Why a lot of people love using it for multi-use, I guess, because it's not like the RSAS, which is it's like trying to hold a small canoe. The same with the M1A.
Yeah.
You're trying to go around like doors and stuff, and you're just like, oh freaking, oh my god, no, this is awful.
Yeah.
Whereas the MDR, it's like it's so compact and so teeny, and you can just stick the voodoo on top of it, and you've got the 1X, and you're just like. You're not getting blocked by stuff, which is like actually a huge advantage. Like you can use the SCAR on the shortest version, I guess, but I think it's still is it still one slot longer than the MDR? I can't quite remember.
Probably.
I'm not sure. I think it probably is. I mean, when I did all the testing that I did, the mid barrel SCAR, you could get better recoil and basically the same ADS speed as the MDR, which was kind of cool. It was as close as I could get between the two. Like there's still some stat differences between them, and there's the size issue, but it was it was compelling, and there's a barter for the SCAR, so there is actually a use case for it. I mean the SCAR is funny because I've had like lots of conversations with people about the SCAR, and I really like the SCAR, and I like the SCAR L as well.
Yeah.
But there's a whole contingent. It's like very 50-50. People are split. They're either like, I love the SCAR, it feels great. Like whether they like the SCAR H or not kind of depends on some other things. But with the SCAR L specifically, they're just like, oh, I really like it. And other people are just like, I can't play with it. Like the entire right hand of my screen is just completely blocked.
It is annoying, but I don't mind that as much, me personally. But
yeah, like and I don't mind it that much either. And one thing that I find weird about the way that the SCAR looks on your screen is that when you then go to ADS, I feel that, I mean, again, I need to actually have a look at this and test it properly, but I feel like the the sights are actually closer to your face, and I quite like having large sights. I don't like having tiny little dots because the reticle issues that we have in EFT, right? If you put something on the handguard or you have it even on a canted, I'm really not a fan of canteds because you have the reticle like floating around inside. And if you do too much strafing, like the thing just bloody disappears outside of the frame of the optic, and I'm just like, that is not what I put you down there for, you know. Like I wanted something to be able to click on people's heads with, not just to have it disappear on the screen when I'm moving. Whereas if you ADS with a delta point, for example, on one of the scars, it's like massive. You got this huge triangle, and I quite like huge frames, and some people don't. It's just like a real personal preference thing, which is kind of interesting. But if you do like that, then the scar, it does that. It seems to anyway. I mean, I would like to compare it and just even take some screenshots or something and just, you know, see what the difference is. Like put a delta point on top of the MDR, put it on top of the scar, and just like have a look at the difference between the two. I'd be interested to see actually, because that's how it feels. But
yeah, no, you're right. You're exactly right. And I'm not sure if that's because the sight sits further back than it does on like similar platforms like an M4, or if it's because of the way the gun's modeled and where your head gets positioned that's the case why it's bigger. But it's absolutely bigger. You're absolutely right. As a Scar L enjoyer, that's one of my favorite features of it, is that you get big sights, which I mean, like you could argue is a bad thing because like your frame's bigger. But I like the sight being bigger and more. Yeah, nothing like a EOTech that's just like a circle within a circle with like lines around it. Like it's like a blob you're aiming. Like, okay, yeah, let me just smear this on the target. Okay.
Yeah, I guess like the argument for me is that if you take it to its logical conclusion, then if you were zoomed in all the way and the reticle, it was like super close to your eye, then the frame would be gone completely. It'd be like off to the side. Like the further away from the center the frame is, for me, the better. That's kind of the way that I think about it.
Yeah, that's
true. The closer it is to the middle, even if it's thin, I just find it annoying because if it's like it's in the bit where I'm trying to see the people, you know, it's like whereas if it's like nice and wide and it's kind of towards more the edges of the center of the screen, then I'm like, okay, I can kind of ignore it now, and it's a bit more like how it is IRL, right? When you look through like both eyes and you don't even see the frame because you're like looking here and you're looking there at the same time. All you see is the dot because like your eye just like looks past it because you're focusing on the dot, which is actually like a projection at some point in front, and so it's actually blurred in the on the frame itself, all that kind of stuff. But it's like one interesting thing about the scar that I think has come up a couple of times in my chat, and it's an interesting feature, which is kind of cool. The one other gun that I wanted to ask, that I wanted to touch on. Actually, were you going to say something first before I move on?
Yeah, two things. One, so my general rule of thumb is 1Xs, get them as close as you can to you, but scopes, get them as far as possible. And I don't know why this is the case, but the best example is like a TAC 30. You take a TAC 30, you put like a Night Force mount, put the TAC 30 in there, shoot it, you'll get like eye relief, right? Yeah. You get the Genesis one that like sits them up a little, or anyone that like pushes it up further, even slap on a Tactula rail on top as well, and then the mount, and then the scope. You won't get as much eye relief, or you won't get any. And I don't know why. It's just like the further the scope's up, the better, quote unquote, it is. It's weird. Give it a go.
I've not really tried. Like, which one are you referring to? Is that like the one that's got the strange pronunciation? That's got the you buy it and it's like red, and then you have to get the second bit.
Yeah,
to complete it.
I think that one called the Genesis. Yeah, which is great because you get a zero ergo mount because the piece that caps it off gives you like 0.0
half, I think.
Yeah, and like the thing is like half, so it like balances out to zero. I love it. Like I'm such a min-maxer dude. I'm like, yes. And it sits the scope up further so I get the better eye relief. It's a win-win.
Is there another one that you were mentioning that works like that too? I haven't actually ever tested it.
I think like the JP ones do. They like kind of like sit the sight.
Oh yeah.
Further a bit, you know.
It's interesting. I'll have to have a look because like
I think it's only for the
big issue for it's a big issue for the TAC.
Yeah. The text I don't like that scope in general, but that's the best one to test it with. Because you can get the best results.
I quite like it. I don't mind that one, but yeah.
Yeah, correct. Not kidding. The other one I was gonna say was the Scar H. I don't really like because it's 20 rounds and the recoil, while it is low, it has too much vertical for me.
Yeah, okay.
It's similar to SC58 in that regard. Like they both kind of have like they go to the side too much, so I don't really like it for that reason.
Yeah, I mean the vertical. Like I was gonna say, you know, if you don't like the vertical on the Scar, I'm surprised that you like the vertical on the MDR because they're basically the same. But like horizontally, I agree with you.
Yeah, and it just comes down to the basic principle of like I can pull down, but I can't pull left or right on a die. Like I remember using it, and I was on like 2-story dorms on like the opposite side of where you come up the middle stairs, and the guy comes up, and I just try to spray him down, but I just like didn't kill him in 20 rounds. You know, maybe if I had like a 50, I could, but it's just too hard to account for the left and right. So I mean, it has a good return to center, but I don't know. I just never really liked it that much. Plus, it's expensive compared to. I mean, that was back before the SR25 was banned, but I don't know. Maybe it has a place. I just haven't really looked at it too much. It just kind of feels bad having. Like I'm not sure what the upside is for it. Is what I'm.
Yeah,
like I guess like maybe if you like do go for like one taps more often with that gun, maybe it's decent.
Yeah, it's one of those things where like I feel like the full auto is there kind of just in case. Like they should all really be used in semi as like your standard, and then switch to full auto when you're kind of like in oh my god, someone's in my face with a KS23 kind of mode, you know. Because yeah, they've except for the SA58, they've all got limited mags, MDR, Scar, whatever, right? Except for the M1A and those ones, but their semi-auto doesn't really matter. Yeah, I don't know. Like the one that was most compelling, it's almost like it did kind of suck. Actually, I was like, damn, like, I did all this work, and the one conclusion I came to got scuppered by like a stupid Tarkov bug that makes nobody want to do it. Which I was like, god damn it! Which is that there's one barter that can be really good. So the secure magnetic tapes people sell for like usually 60k, but you can get them cheaper than that, and they're one good thing to get dollars with. They're like one of the info items that work for dollars quite nicely. The magnetic tape cassette type items. But two of them and a flat screwdriver, and you can get a medium barreled Scar H, like straight off with mechanic, which is kind of cool. Problem is, it's the freaking tan version, dude. It's the FDE version, and no one wants to use that gun because everyone's just like, oh, the glow bug.
Yeah.
You know, like in certain lighting, you have like the weird glow bug.
Yeah.
And it seems like I've never really seen people talking about it with the RSS. I guess like any FDE material can do it, I think. And the MDR is great because it's like, you know, the black version, so it's awesome. And the SR, you can like choose which ones you put on, unless you're using the RSS handguards, etc. But yeah, once you've bought the base, because of the way that it's done, like you can't. It'd be cool if you could just like paint them or something. Like at least just make the guns black or whatever. If you didn't want them FDE, it's sort of a shame that they're segregated by like paint job almost, you know, because they are in the game. It's like the base weapon is like the FDE Scar versus the regular Scar. It's kind of annoying.
Maybe one day they'll do that. This just in, hot off the press, we got a Tarkov update.
Really?
Battlestate Games celebrates its birthday. 25% discounts gave from Tarkov and official merchandise. They say your support, patience, and constructive criticism gives us tremendous motivation to continue to work, create a dream game, and become better. Thank you. And yeah, you get 25% off on all editions from the 14th at 2100 GMT to October 16th at 2059 GMT.
Well, October the 14th, 2101 was approximately 62 minutes ago.
Oh, okay.
So I guess it's already live. Maybe they were a bit late.
Yeah.
Doing that announcement. I actually already saw, like, One Peg posted a tongue-in-cheek tweet about this already. he wrote, I guess maybe it was on the website first, and he posted 17 hours ago. Celebrate Battlestate gave his birthday with 25% discounts on everything. It must have been already like on the website, and like not announced on Twitter yet.
Well, they typically do this type of stuff. It seems like every, I don't know, 2 to 3 months they do some type of sale or something. Like, okay.
Yeah, he said 1, 2, 3, hacker cadabra.
Yeah,
which I thought was quite funny. But I mean, he was just basically joking about everyone goes like, oh no, the cheaters are going to run in and they're going to buy all the discounted copies and then it's going to ruin the game, which doesn't really make sense because they buy stolen copies anyway.
Yeah,
they're not buying copies at like 25% discount. Anyway, it's a whole other question. Anyway, if you want to, I guess this is the point. If you want to upgrade to EOD before Arena arrives in the advent of Arena, now would be a decent time. There'll probably be another couple of.
Can you reset your mic?
Another couple. Oh, did something weird happen?
Yeah, it's doing like a static thing. We wait as Giga applies the lube to the microphone.
I can't get it back in.
Oh, it's switched to your.
Is that better?
Yes.
There we go.
Excellent.
Good. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Sometimes it's really annoying.
The connection just gets loose or something.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's impossible to get back in and like super hard to take out. So like, I don't know how the connection gets loose. Like something happens to it and it just bugs out. But there we go. Anyway, I was saying, yeah, if you want to upgrade to EOD, then like now is a good time because Arena's on the horizon and you'll get it for free. So if you already have the standard account edition, I mean, I don't know. I can't remember how much that will cost. I mean, what is the difference between EOD and standard these days? It's 25% off that basically. As we approach Arena, it makes more and more sense to get EOD simply because you're going to get Arena for free.
Okay.
So that kind of takes some of the sting out. But
how much did BSG pay to show for them? Be honest. Is this a promo spot? Are we sponsored by Battlestate Games?
Oh, can you imagine? Can you imagine?
Kidding, of course.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the hot press news. Anything else about NATO guns? I think there's someone's gonna say, but I'm gonna ditch it because I don't remember.
Yes, there was one more which I was gonna ask you. Have you ever used the G28?
Once and twice, and I thought it was absolute garbage, and I never used it. Well, no, you know what? I used it a few times, and it just like, oh, it's another DMR, and then I saw the stats on it, like the hidden secret forbidden stats, and I was like, oh, it's actually garbage, and I will not use this. But I did see your video about, or maybe you just mentioned it on stream, I can't remember, but the weight's really light, which is kind of cool.
I'm making something about it at the moment, basically.
Is there a build where you take off the stock and it's even lighter? Please tell me. Dude, I just love how like the Tarkov mechanics like all come together, and like the most meta thing to do is, you know, it's like this ultra realistic game is like remove the stock from your bolt action sniper rifle and have a giant hand cannon pistol to get better.
Dude, the fact that works on the SV98 is insane.
So funny, dude.
And it's like legitimately a consideration.
Yeah,
like you don't lose that much ergo for doing it. You don't lose any accuracy whatsoever. The stability of the gun is basically identical. And when you look down, you're just like, hell yeah. You got it just like in your right hand, just like, boy, put the voodoo on it like a suppressor. It's super funny, honestly. I thought it was hilarious. I thought it would change something, but
the recoil is not enough to really like what is it? Like an extra 3 frames you lose of your sight picture or like your target?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. But you gain like a load of arm stamina.
Yeah.
Because it's really heavy. It's like over half a kilo. And the OV version is only like 3.8 kilos, I think, to start with. So it's like a big proportion of the gun in terms of what you save.
Yeah,
which is kind of
crazy.
funny. It is nuts. It's quite entertaining. I mean, you can do it with like SRs and stuff. Like the SR was probably the lightest gun that I found up until looking at the G28, and I was like, man, this gun is like really light. Like if you take the G28 and you make the minimum viable build, like literally just a handguard, a pistol grip, the buffer tube that comes with it, it's like it's super 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 light. It's like lighter than most of the SMGs or something. It's like it's insane.
Wow.
But yeah, basically I'm putting a video together at the moment, but like the build I've been using is, I think it comes to four. So we talked before, right? This is sort of where I was leading up to a little bit. It's just interesting that you've got these choices, right? You got the M1A is like 7 kilos, and that's with the Thunder Beast, which is the lightest suppressor, and a 20 round mag. You got the RSAS with basically the same build, that's 6 kilos. You got the SR25, which is 5.2 kilos or something. The MDR is actually surprisingly heavy. It's heavier than the SCAR, but both the SCAR and the MDR, like even the SCAR tips over 5 kilos, is like 5.1 or something, and then the MDR is like 5.5 kilos when you have the rounds in, because it all looks great until you put 20 rounds of 251 in, and you're just like, damn, this bullet's heavy, you know. Whereas the G28 is the only one that I've found so far. I mean, it's maybe there's another build or something that I haven't looked at, but to be honest, I mean, there's only so many things you could do that are sensible that give you recoil and ergo in a way that like you wouldn't want to destroy the stats of the gun just for like a bit of weight. Like who cares?
Right.
Those things are way more important. Whereas the G28, yeah, with getting a sensible stats on the weapon, it's like the only one, and it's like miles lighter. It's like 4.5 kilos with 20 rounds of 7.62 in. I was like, kind of neat. It's like a whole kilo lighter than even the next 2 or 3 lightest, and it's 2.5 kilos lighter than the M1A, which is pretty funny. So I was like, well, maybe I can use it for shootable in heaven. You know, I only need to take a couple of shots, and I'm using arm stamina mainly. Maybe that's like where its forte is going to be. I don't know. So that was sort of an idea. I mean, it's another option. It's another option, but yeah. I mean, whether it makes enough difference, kind of up to you, right? It's like every kilo for me with my endurance and stuff is about like 3 or 4 seconds ADS time you get extra. So if you're going from that to the M1A, it's like you lose like 10 seconds or something on the ADS time, which makes a big difference. But going from that to the SR, it's like losing 3 seconds of ADS time. Like, do I really care? Like, I'm not sure. And the fact it's really hard to buy because it's like incredibly expensive from the traders and has an insane barter. But it's interesting, right? I've like never looked at the gun before, and it's kind of fun because it's a bit different and it's like got that unique factor to it. I'm like, yeah, you know, weight's really important this wipe, so you know maybe. So I'm putting something together on it. Like we'll see where it comes to, because you got to do all the shenanigans, right? It's like you got to buy the gun for like just under 300k, but then you got to sell all the stuff back because like most people don't want to use the 3x12 Schmidt scope, so you're going to be putting a voodoo on it. So it's like, well, how much does it cost when you sell back the Schmidt scope, the T1 that comes with it, you know, all the other bits that you don't actually want and that you're going to upgrade. Like if you sell all of that back, like how much do you get back? Like over 100k. So it's like, okay, well the starting point for the gun is like not necessarily that, it's this, and I try to analyze that, and that's what I'm figuring out. That's going to come at some point, but it's interesting. It's interesting. I think it's cool caliber just because there's so many choices. It's like you can go low recoil. There's trade-offs, and that's what I like. It's like you can go low recoil but without good centering time. Like some of them got different size magazines, some go full auto, some are shorter, some are longer. It's like there's so many options in there, and they're all good. Like they're all decent. You put M61 in any of them and they will rip people, you know. So it's like a lot of personal preference combined with what you want to use it for. And I've been enjoying it. I like it. I like that sort of choice between them. And an M61 is just nasty, obviously.
Yeah, it's really good. It don't
very,
care
very
about your armor.
Does not. It's like 92% against a slick or something on shot 1.
Yeah, it's just
it's
dead.
Disgusting.
It's
like
really
it's like ricochets or an 8% chance to get lucky with the class 6. Yep. Funny.
Cool.
So yeah, I think that's it for that. I mean, I wanted to talk about it here because it's actually quite hard to talk about all of it in a YouTube video. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Like normally I compare 2 things against each other because it's like much easier to do. Whereas I just feel like this format is much more open for various discussion. There's like so many elements to it, and it's easier to actually talk about in this way. Because I've been looking at all those guns recently, I thought it would be worthwhile just kind of like summarizing it, even just for me in my own head, you know, about what I found out and the different trade-offs and that kind of thing. It's been cool. It's interesting. So What I'm going to use next, I don't know. I'm going to probably look at the XMC next, actually. Like the 3381.
Oh
The 33,
yeah,
put Balti,
I
because it's kind of
haven't
fun.
really looked at. I mean, I know it's quest locked, but someone gave it to me as a viewer kit once. Shout out to Myth, and I didn't like the fact that it had 0 ergo. I mean, it was suppressed, so like, okay, that makes sense, but that just kind of was a turn off for me. Like, I guess
But
if
it's
you
loud.
like just yeah, but then it's like you're sniping with a bolt action, so you want to be suppressed. Like, it's just like, I don't know. Maybe it's a good thing that it's like a hard decision, but like if you're just like laying prone, somewhere stationary, it's not that bad, right? But
Yeah.
otherwise, it's not really my favorite thing in the world. But that's just me.
You're going to have to use like SJ6 to keep your arm stamina up.
I guess, dude. But it's not only that, but it just takes forever for it to come up, and it's like I don't like. I like the snappy ones.
Yeah. I do think it's a gun that, again, it works like well with Meldonin or whatever, because of you just get that small tick of like 0.5, which just helps in general the stamina, and it's like 15 minutes. That's probably how I'm going to combine it together. Did you know? I guess there's the last point on this topic before we move on to your stuff that you've been looking at. Did you know that there is a different pistol grip adapter for the AXMC? I have it identified, but it is not on the fully at all. Like there was one person who wanted what did they actually want? They wanted like a green labs key or something, or yellow, like it was something stupid. And previously when I looked earlier today, there were none at all. Because I was like having a look at it and like putting together just a few builds on it and just having a see. I was like, oh, you can't really do anything to this. Let me just put this thing together with the better adapter. And I was like, oh, I literally can't buy this. Okay, interesting. But I have it identified. So maybe I picked one up at some point, just like sold it to mechanics or whatever. I don't know what this is, like 338 Lapua, like I'll just sell it. Didn't realize it was like incredibly rare. Or at least it is at this point in the wipe. I don't know. And that allows you to put the growl on it. So
to get more ergo. I see.
Yeah, so it's like a swing of 7 or 8. Like it doesn't make a huge difference. It's not that big a difference. The killer for that thing is the weight. Like no matter what I do, that thing is like 6.5 kilos regardless.
Yeah.
Even if you take the stuck off, it's still like over 6 kilos. Because I checked, it does have a separate one, so you can technically do it. You reminded me before when you talked about the SV. So I'm having a look at that because it's kind of interesting. And I just killed Sturman and got the quest unlocked. So I'm like, okay, well, let's just like have a look at it. I've not played with it yet, so we'll see. And it's very accurate, so could be interesting. Oh, like the first raid. Oh, I tried to take it into just like an offline lighthouse raid just to see if I could like snipe the rogues from like a million miles away. I ran into. I mean, it's because I put bosses on, right? But I think you have to make the rogues spawn. I encountered the rogue bosses.
The goons. Yeah.
They were somewhere around villas, and I was on the sort of sniping rock. You know, the big rock in the middle of the map, the really tall one. It's not right next to the cabin.
Where you can hear like birds or like desert sounds.
Oh, I don't know actually. I'm not sure about that. But yeah, it's the one that's like next to the road. The big like long main road. It's kind of and it overlooks the villas on that side. And they were there somewhere. And I've got this like, I've got a horrible clip. I was actually recording it. And honestly, it's insane. I just got shot from like, and it ended up it was getting foggier and foggier and foggier. And it was awful. And I spotted one of them once. And I couldn't see them. And there was just like traces just coming in. I just could not see these guys at all. And then in the end, there's like 3 sets of tracers coming. Like it's actually kind of a nuts clip. There's like 3 sets of tracers coming in. And the GL just going... and my health bar's just going like redder, and then I just fall over and die to big pipe. I was just like, what the hell, dude? Like this is actually insane. Just a random one, but that was my maiden voyage with the XMC and offline so far. I was just like, oh, let's just try and take it to snipe some rogues. It's just like the rogue bosses say no. Can't walk around that map. Anyway, what have you been up to this week then, Church? Tell us. Reveal all. I'm excited to hear about this.
Oh, dude, are you? So I've been playing the cycle, but someone in our Discord, the ScavTalk Discord, was like, haha, look at this mobile game. It's on PC. It's Tarkov. It's lol. And then, I was like, okay, okay, that's cute. And then a few days later, they were like, oh, I'm actually having fun. I was like, Nani? I had to check it out, dude. And oh my God, dude, it's like, I don't want to say it's so bad that it's good because I don't think that's accurate. Like, I don't think it's bad. I think it's like actually genuinely good, dude, which is like boggling my mind because it's a mobile game. It's a free to play mobile game. And it's got, microtransactions up the wazoo. It's crap, but it's literally like Tarkov clone, dude. It's literally Tarkov clone. Like if this came out in like 2010s, like early 2010s, this would be like, I'd be all over this, dude. I'd be all over this. And it's just like, it's kind of crazy, dude. Because it's like, that's like on your phone now. Back in my day, we had these graphics on my PC. It's just like, but yeah.
You're playing on PC?
Yeah, I'm playing on PC. And like the integration's good. Like you have all the hotkeys. Like there's like as many hotkeys as you use in Tarkov, you probably use in this game as well. Like I'm not kidding. Yeah. But it's kind of crazy, man. They got some like interesting stuff. But so you have like the two factions, right? You got the PMCs, aka Fireflies or whatever, and then you got Marauders
or something.
Yeah. I mean, it's a Chinese developer.
Yeah.
I'm assuming publisher as well, which I didn't really expect, but
what's it called again?
Lost Light.
Okay. Lost Light.
I like it's like I played it, right? So I'm like, okay, let me go in. I mean, you got like a hideout, you walk around. It took me a while to get used to controls. You have to like toggle between like cursor and like moving the character. So it is in third person, but when you ADS, it's first person, right? Which normally third person games, I'm just like a hard
I mean, there's
no.
alarm bells all over this.
Right? I know, dude, but I'm telling you, it's crazy because it's like it's really just something new and fresh. That's Tarkov. That's mainly it for me, but also just like I'm just like so boggled that I'm like playing it and enjoying myself. You know what I mean? Like,
how's the desync?
I don't know.
Does it feel okay? Does the networking feel pretty good?
Yeah. I mean, it feels fine for me, but
so is it exactly the same? Like you've got a bunch of maps, two factions, you start with nothing, you go in, you loot stuff, there's crates, blah, blah, blah. Like you come back, you have a stash, do you have a hideout? Like is there a hideout with like upgrades? Okay.
Yes.
Is there anything that's different?
Yes. So instead of being naked, you have a pistol that has like 900 rounds of like crap ammo. And what's crazy too is like they literally did the same armor system, right? So there's like class 1 through 6, and like you have durability and different material types, and like the bullets, they have all the same bullets, dude. They have like APSX, subsonic. They have new ones like training rounds for the MP7. Like it's like 0 pin, it's not even a flesh. It's like the starter round. It's just like they have like all these mechanics, but like in this game in like its own little like way, and you can mod guns just like Tarkov, and they like affect the recoil and ADS speed. You're like they got like different builds you could do, like ADS builds of like the late dude. They got this really cool. This is such a cool idea. So like when you cut on your laser, right, you lose your crosshair, but you get a red dot, and this is in third person mode, mind you. But once your dot doesn't have anything to like land on to be visible, like how Tarkov does that, you just lose the dot, right? But as long as the dot's there, and it's about like 10 meters, you get like a massive like accuracy buff, as if you were like ADSing. So you can like have the mobility of
being in third. Because you slow down in ADS,
yes.
I guess?
Yeah,
okay.
But
so this is point fire in this game, basically.
Yes, but it's only like at a certain distance. You can't like point fire really far away. I was like, dude, that's such a genius idea. Like that was really cool. I'm just gonna like, okay, let me go back to the beginning. So yeah, you that's like your naked kit, but you get like some basic stuff. You go in, I load into the map. It's called BAF Factory. Okay, it didn't dawn on me that it's literally factory, but it is factory. They like copied the layout of factory, expanded. It's like the factory expansion times 2. You know, they like added like new routes and different stuff. But you know, you loot stuff, dude. You kill PMCs. You know, there's bosses. It's like there's scavs and so this is one. It's got secure container, all that stuff. But it's got the hideout. Okay, so this is one neat feature. When you die, you can go back into that same raid, but you're completely naked. You just have your pistol. Like this pistol is effectively like your melee weapon in Tarkov. Like it can't be looted, but it's like, and you have like 999 rounds, but it's garbage, right? And so you can get like and then your killer, you two can like see each other at the start when you spawn in, and I think you get like a waypoint marker. I'm not too sure on the details. I've only done it a few times. But you basically get like a second chance to like either get something out of the raid. Like maybe you don't go back for your gear, but you like kill a scav and get something. Or like maybe you try to go kill that guy. Maybe you cut him off at the extract. Like I thought that was a really unique, like it's just different, you know, that's like a whole nother. Yeah. It's also nice because it's like a little more casual friendly, you know, so you don't feel like you're, because they got insurance and secret container, all that stuff, but it's just like another thing. Of course, it's monetized and you can, you know, buy more. Like, I think you get like 2 per every, you know, whatever X amount of time, but you can like buy it to like keep spawning back in to try to get your stuff. It's funny. It's funny. But, yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's like so many, like, there's cosmetics, there's, you know, they got all kinds of stuff. That's how they do. But
there's a lot of pay to win in there, or is it mostly cosmetics?
I don't know, and I don't really care, to be honest. Because you know, it's I know what I'm getting myself into. Like this is the type of game I used to play like back in the day. You know what I mean? So I'm like having like a nostalgia factor, but I'm like loving the like Tarkov clone that it is, because it's just like a straight up clone, dude. Like you can craft stuff, dude. There's a flea market, you can sell stuff. It's just crazy, dude. It's like you're selling stuff.
There's no find and raid.
No, there is find and raid.
There is find and raid.
They have, it's called sellable. And
okay.
But the difference is you stuff you craft is sellable, I think. Yeah. And when you die with stuff, yeah, it's just like found and raid, dude.
Why would they do that?
It's a Tarkov clone. Okay, I don't know.
Maybe they took all the decisions, good and bad, and decided just to implement them all in their own game.
Well, maybe for RMT, because they do have a flea market, right? So maybe for RMT, but I'm not.
Like, can you not sell other PMC's gear that you find in that kind of thing? Okay, so they've got that in already.
But this is the other interesting part. This was a recent change. I was informed that they did where, so traders, right? You level them up. There's really technically one trader, but you level them up and you get unlocks. But so let's say the suppressor is like locked at 17. You level 17, but you still can't get it because you have to find it first in raid and then turn it in, and then you get the unlock. So not only do you have to be a low requirement, but you also have to find it, which is, yeah, it's interesting. It's different. So anyways,
yeah, that's kind of interesting. Like, I think that's okay. I don't mind that. That's just quite a cool mechanic.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Because it kind of like, instead of like quests locking you, because they don't have like quests that unlock gear, you know what I mean? At least not that I'm aware of. So I guess what happened before is people would just like grind the XP and just, you know, get all the good stuff too quickly. So this was a way of like slowing it down a bit, I assume. But
how long has this been out for? It sounds like they've gone through some iterations of stuff.
I think it's just came to the other markets in the past couple of months, like maybe 6 months ago, 4 months ago, something like that.
The initial release date, 4th of August 2022, but I don't know whether that's just Steam or something else.
Yeah, it might be Steam, because I don't know when the mobiles got it on.
Interesting.
the US and Europe.
So it's pretty new, but they've already gone through all these iterations of things.
Yeah. Okay, there's this really cool thing they have I have to tell you about. So in the hideout, there's this, or when you start the game, you get like this screen that pops up and it's like 48 days till extinction or something, or to like whatever. And you're like, huh? And then there's this little station where you can like, it says like, it has like the timer that's counting down like 48 days till the event happens or whatever. And it's like a progress bar, and it's like these vials you put in. You can find these vials in raid, put in, and if enough people turn in 1,000,000 and like 100,000 vials, then the game won't wipe in 48 days. But if it doesn't happen, then the game wipes, dude. Isn't that so freaking cool, dude? Isn't that so freaking cool? So it's like,
that's fun,
dude. It's like my duty now. If I find it, it's like, oh, I gotta turn this in. I don't want to lose my progression, dude. If I kill someone and I have like, oh man, they got this good loot, but I gotta get this vial, dude. I don't want to like. It's so crazy, dude. It's so crazy. I thought that was so cool.
It's kind of like what we've talked about before about like things bigger than just you and the players. So the ongoing story of like the game is different. What's actually kind of smart about that, just thinking about it for like 2 seconds, is that as people are playing and everyone wants to play in that particular wipe or whatever, like people keep hitting the milestones and then it doesn't wipe. But as people like drop out the game or people are like fed up and can't be bothered, they're not picking up those vials anymore, it's kind of like, it's almost like a self-referencing mechanism to kind of like, oh, everyone's kind of bored because no one's picking the vials up. And so the game wipes and then it starts again. Like it's almost, do you know what I mean? Like it's almost a mechanism that drives off like the interaction with the community and the player base as to whether it wipes or not, based upon what people's interest is, which is like kind of cool.
Yeah. So like if you're like a 24-hour gamer or something ridiculous, and you're like, I don't want to lose all my progression, you're like even more incentivized to keep playing. Like I gotta pick up the slack for the guys that quit day 2. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. But if you're just like, oh, I'm bored and I want a new wipe again, I want to leave. Like when wipe, you just stop picking up the vials. It's almost like it's kind of democratic.
It is.
You can almost see if people just like say to their various like communities, just guys, stop picking up vials. Like, let's get a wipe. Let's organize a wipe. Let's just like stop picking the vials up. And you could have like different warring factions. Some people are like, yeah, no, come on, we do want to wipe. Like, got to pick the effort up. That's kind of interesting.
And
do you play? Sorry, yeah, no, you go on.
No, go ahead. What's your question?
It was unrelated, so
no, go ahead. I want to hear it.
Topic. I was just going to say, do you play against mobile players?
I don't
when
know.
You're playing on PC. Is it crossplay or not?
I'm thinking it's crossplay just because I don't run into too much trouble. I mean,
do you just kill everybody on this game?
Yeah, not everybody.
Is this why you've been enjoying it so much?
I think that does play into it, but
I'm just playing Tarkov, coming to this thing, and I was like, oh, I wonder what this Lost Light game is. And just like sweating in his room, just like like intense, like the flow state,
just like ruining, just like some 14-year-olds who's like just squeezing the game in between class.
Yeah, they've been scrolling through Steam for all the free games, just like maybe I'll pick this one up. This looks kind of fun. And
no, he's on his phone, is what I'm thinking.
Oh, and he's on his phone.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah,
Church, like grizzled veteran of like 7 wipes of Tarkov or whatever, like playing this. Oh my god,
it's funny, dude.
Oh my god.
But they have this other thing in there too, where it's like you can turn in these like are injectors or something. There's like 3 injectors, or they're the same, but you need 3 of them to like give yourself an immunity. And if you do that, then your soft skills don't wipe. Something if you're like I don't remember all the details, but like maybe it's like your level and like your soft skills don't wipe. So there's like another element. So not only does like your stash and hideout get wiped on like one, like that's like a big community goal, but then there's like this individual goal where if you find like 3 of these things or buy them, they're like 20 million rubles, are really expensive. Then you can get you can at least save your skills and your level. Maybe I don't really know.
It sounds kind of busted, but yeah, okay, that's interested.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool. Like there's these little things that they do that was like, wow, that's actually like another one that was like, wow, this is mind blowing. Was when you go to gear up, you can like select your ammo. Like, it's weird. I won't go into too detail, but you can select your ammo, right? And you have like mags and stuff. But then you can select the mag and say, you know, fill all or clear all, right? And then it actually has it counted out like a visual on the side, like slot 1, slot 2, slot 3, slot 4 for the whole like 30 rounder, right? Okay. And then you can go inside there and move it around individually, each bullet, and it has like each bullet visualized. So you could put like, you know, alternate between rip and whatever, like some AP ammo if you wanted to. You could like say, I want the load 5 in, stop. I want the load 6 in, stop. I want to load, you know, to fill the rest in with this ammo. And then you're like, oh, I made a mistake. You can just like move slot 28 to slot 1 and everything will slide down. Like, I was like, dude, that is so cool. Tarkov needs this so bad, dude. I mean, it's only
like the UI is like really neat, basically.
Well,
the UI for that is really good.
That feature, yeah. Specifically, the UI in general is like dopium freaking overdose, dude. Like, claim your reward now. Click here for premium. Oh my gosh, a new skin. You know, it's just like, dude, it's a free to play game. All right, I mean, but this is some pure early 2000s freaking dude.
How quick is it to get into a match?
On the factory map, I don't think the population's that big. Again, I'm not sure if I'm playing against other PC players only or like a whole boat like crossplay, but on factory, which is like the noob map, because that's the only map you can play when you start out, like the first 5 levels, it's like instant. The other maps take a little bit more time. Like I was doing a scav earlier and it took me 10 minutes to get into a match, and that was with like, oh no, sorry, I stopped the queue because I added a bunch of maps to it, because you can select multiple maps to the scav on, and it took some time, but I was in queue for 10 minutes for just one map, so I was like, this isn't gonna work, you know. But anyways, yeah, dude, I don't know, I'm addicted. I am shamelessly. I'm enjoying it, dude, and it's freaking. I can't explain it, dude. I can't explain it. But yeah, that's what I've been up to.
So apparently, I'm just looking at Steam charts for this thing.
Okay.
Apparently, the all-time peak concurrent players on Steam was 4,700, and on average, like the 24-hour peak now is like 2,600, and there's 2,100 people at the moment. So it
sounds about right.
It's smallish. We were talking about the cycle last week, right? And that had what, 10K, I think?
10 to 8K. Yeah. Which I've been playing a little on the side. It's kind of like my play with friends game.
All-time peak 40K, 24-hour peak 5K. Okay, so all right. Now 30 days peak players 8K. Fine. So yeah, cycle's probably 2 to 3 times as big as this thing. Interesting. I mean, yeah, like it's funny how like the ecosystem for games with like a couple of thousand players is like enough, you know?
Yeah, it is and it isn't. The flea market can be pretty bare. It actually is pretty bare for like weapon parts, because there's so many weapon parts, just like Tarkov. Yeah, it's kind of hard, but there is a flea market. I mean, things in general are really expensive, it seems like, because I think there's just less stuff being circulated, so it's hard for the prices to fall, I guess.
Yeah, I guess also if there's so many parts, like the things that you want. And is there a limitation on how much you can put up?
I don't know. I was able to sell 3 items like individually, because I had a quest to sell 3 items, so I just listed like 3 wrenches. You know, one like 100 rubles cheaper than the other. And they sold after like a few minutes, but yeah, I don't know if they have slots. It's just
very
weird,
interesting.
Man. I know, dude. It's crazy.
It's funny, just like scrolling through the Steam page, even like just looking at some of they've got like a GIF of just some of the videos. Like, I mean, the graphics look pretty good.
I mean,
they look okay, honestly.
Yeah,
like, it's fine.
Okay, I mean, when you frame it and that it's a mobile game, they look good for a mobile game. But you have to frame it in that aspect, right?
Like, it doesn't look like Tarkov, right? But the
no.
especially not on PC. But the thing is, normally, like, yeah, most people are playing it like this big, right?
Right.
Anything looks good. You know, you can watch a movie in like 720 on your phone, and it looks great.
Oh yeah, dude. I
It's so
love
tiny.
all the freaking video, like the movie files that play during like when you load the map. They're like super like heavily compressed, like, you know, low res. Like it just looks like shit. There's like just compression everywhere. It's so funny.
Oh god. That's interesting. That's interesting. Yeah, I'm half tempted to just like have just a quick dabble myself, just to see.
Do you have a do you have a phone that can play like these types of games on? I know mine can.
Probably not. What is your phone?
iPhone 8. It's a little
I mean, I've got a Galaxy S7. We're probably both in the same
okay.
I've realized that my phone was outdated when my dad upgraded his phone because he used it for his business, whatever, and he gave his old phone to my mum.
Mm-hmm.
And we used to have the same phone, me and my dad, and now my mum has the same phone as me. And I was like, okay, this is now I'm at like I'm at the tail end of tech here, like definitely. I think I'm like 5 series behind because he goes like S7, S8, S9, S10, S20. I think he's an S21 now, I think, and I'm still on the S7. I jumped from the S5 to the S7. I mean, the thing is, it'll play some stuff. Like you can play.
Were you able to play Dota Underlords?
Yeah, I could.
Oh, see, I couldn't on mine.
If I played it for an hour, I had to take the case off.
Yeah.
And I had to have it in like a flow of air.
Yeah. Mine would just like instantly get hot, dude. It would be like 30 FPS, maybe like 50. It was really bad.
Yeah, like it would get quite low towards the end of Underlord, like the FPS. But yeah, I mean, I once had it shut down for like critical heat, which I was like, oh, okay. I'm probably got to be a bit more careful. That's when I started taking the case off. And I'd kind of like heat sink it on random stuff, like while I'm playing. Like on my leg, and then move it onto another leg, and then like onto, you know, the arm of the sofa, and just like move it around. Dude, you used to play Hearthstone on that like pretty easily.
That should be a product, man. You take your phone, right? And then it's like the case is a freaking game controller, but then on the back you just mount like a CPU cooler to the metal backplate.
It's genius.
Just have like the heat pipes pulling the heat from the phone. I wonder if that would work. You probably like could like barely reduce any heat like that, but it'd be funny to try.
Yeah, I don't know. I used to use mine when I was traveling. So like if there was any like vents or whatever on the train and things like that, then I'd just like put the phone in the vent. Just play that way. Because like on Underlords, a lot of the time you're just watching what's happening.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether we'd play this. I'm not sure. I wouldn't want to play on my phone anyway. I wouldn't want to play a shooter on my phone. I think I played PUBG Mobile like 2 or 3 times just to see what it was like. And I don't like the on-screen D-pad really, especially not playing competitive. I tried it a bit, but because I used to play a lot of PlayStation 1 emulator on my phone, which was cool. And I had the same kind of thing, but like that was all single player games. So it was different. I used to play Final Fantasy. I think I played Final Fantasy 9 through like 5 times on my phone. And that was mostly at uni. And just like, then it's okay because you got like the controls on the screen. Like you're not trying to do anything in real time. As I feel like it'd be really frustrating trying to use that to actually get a kill in something like Tarkov or PUBG. That's what kind of frustrates me. Maybe it's just lack of use, like not being used to it. You know, you got to get used to these kind of things. It's like going back to console. Like I used to play only console before I built my PC. I was PlayStation 2 gamer, and going back to console now, I'm like, what is this block of wood in my hand? Like I can't. I just can't. You know, just can't. So I don't know. But yeah, I'm tempted. I'm tempted to try it out. I mean, especially
dude, I would love if you try it, dude. I would just like, because I don't think you're gonna get the bug like I have, just because I feel like I have like a very biased, you know, eyes on it from just like the nostalgia of the past. But I would love to hear there's one other like crazy cool thing they have in the hideout. They have a weapons rack, and you can like, it's like storage. You can put like 4 guns up there, but it displays them in your hideout, so it's like your collection, cool. Dude. Yeah, that was really cool.
That's cool. Really it's like some of those things that we wish Tarkov would do, you know, like having the display cabinet. Like people have asked for that for ages. It's just like a nice to have thing, but
yeah,
it'd be really neat. Really neat. No, I might end up with the same kind of. I might end up with the same kind of nostalgia. Who knows? like playing these old games. Like the one that comes to mind, because you've spoken before about like random, Korean shooters and this kind of stuff. And I don't know if I mentioned it previously, like, ages ago, but the one that we played, which was Guns Online, where you like do the wall running and all that kind of stuff.
I remember that one.
Like super cool. So I played that, and that was amazing. Like when I was an early teen, it was great fun. And there was like trick things you could do in the game with like the funny mechanics, and it was like part of the game, and you had to like practice it basically, like to do the wall running and do certain techniques. Like it was good fun, that. So yeah, who knows? Maybe it'll I don't know. I'm not even sure what word I was trying to go for. Rekindle some kind of old flame of these old school games. Like we used to play a lot of random like Korean MMOs and this kind of stuff. But like back then, when I played back then, I would say that things weren't as heavily like monetized when I was playing these games. Like you didn't have, just as you said, just the almost epileptic inducing like loading screen and stuff. Like things weren't like that. Like you could pay for premium and stuff like this.
Right.
Like back then, that was kind of the vibe. It wasn't just like paying for cosmetics wasn't really a thing at that point, really. I don't know. Maybe interesting just to have a little go. Let's drop it in.
Yeah, it's cool, man. It's like just seeing the, it's basically Tarkov, but for like a different. I don't know how big it is on mobile, but it's like a different, group of people. Like they get to like, I mean, I was streaming it and like people were asking me, "Oh, do you regularly play Tarkov?" Because I was like constantly making like, it's just like Tarkov. Like, look, the scavs, their AI is busted. It's just like Tarkov. Just making jokes like that.
Do you have people popping in who like play Lost Light?
Yes.
Like specifically, that's cool. That's kind of cool. And they're like, "Oh, you play Tarkov?" And you're like, "Yeah, mostly."
Well, there's like 5 people in the category. I looked today. I was like, there's way too many people popping in here. Like, I need to look at the category. There was like 5 people when I checked. So,
oh, that's it. That's an interesting point, actually. Yeah, because like if you're actually streaming the game and there's like hardly anybody actually in the category,
right? You're kind of like the only one there.
Kind of funny. Yeah, it's like 17, 3, 2, and 1 viewers.
Right.
124 viewers total. Fascinating.
But anyways, I just think it's kind of cool. And the whole like Tarkov genre, it's like really, apparently there's 2 other mobile Tarkov clones. At least that's what I think. I saw. I haven't looked into them. I probably won't look into them because I got one's enough. But I don't know. It's cool. I'm excited to see what. Like I feel like this is the whole like battle royale trend. It's like that game exploded, and then all these other things come along, and like arguably maybe like PUBG's maybe like the OG. And there's like a bit of an OG days vibe, and like the glory days, and then now it's like what Fortnite's probably like the biggest battle royale.
Like Warzone, I guess, depending on.
Actually, I don't
it's
know.
Like
the
different in
stats.
demographics. It's interesting, actually. I was talking to my sister about like games and stuff like this, and we got on to, because she's an esports organizer now for like what she does these days. An esports like tournament organizer here in the UK for like university esports specifically. And it was interesting hearing what she was saying. Like they keep threatening to close down the Dota category, and she's just like, no, but she's like, basically it's a boomer game at this point. Like there's very little interest from people coming through like, current universities to play, which is interesting. And she was talking about some other stuff, and I was like, oh, Warzone's still like honestly, it's still huge. She was like, again, like people aren't really playing that at universities, like, or at least they are, but people tend to play it with their mates or whatever. They're not like as interested in playing tournaments for it. Like people just tend to play it casually. Like apparently the one that the them youth are playing at the minute, and the one that they've seen the most growth in is Valorant by like a long way.
Yeah, I could see that.
Which I could kind of see it, and I was like, at least the game's not dog shit, right? Like I'm kind of pleased that it's not some like piece of crap game. Like at least the game's actually a good game. I could like it feels better in my soul for that, you know what I mean? But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll just see. Like I'm super interested in the DMZ mode for COD. Like I'm really interested, especially with the leaks that have been coming out about like different quests and stuff like this. Like we don't really know anything, but I'm definitely gonna be checking it out. Like I don't really know how to contentify that yet. Not really sure. Like I'm not very diverse creator, so it's tricky. But I'm really interested in what ideas they have. So yeah, I don't know. It's as you say, it's like the people testing the water with lots of different things. I think we've had a few unfortunate forays into it with like the battlefield like collapsing on its own, despite they've got this Tarkov mode, but it's thrown on, but that the main game collapsed in and of itself. Like it didn't really have anything to do with the extraction based mode. But I'm hoping that these COD guys make a good go of it because if there's these Chinese free to play versions and they've done a decent job, then you would hope that the Warzone 2.0 update and Activision can actually do something cool with it. But we will see. We will see.
Yeah.
That'd
be cool.
Yeah. I mean, I just think Tarkov's just like it's just got that special.
It really does.
Yeah.
I mean, like that's kind of the other things I kind of gained. Like, I feel like I could appreciate Tarkov more because like they really went the extra mile on some of the stuff. I mean, like graphics alone, but like the world detail, the detail on the guns. Like, yes, there's like modding on these guns, and they have like a lot, like all the parts are like very familiar, but like it's like you're limited. Tarkov, you can do like it's like real gunsmithing. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. It's just like
you can make crazy monstrosities if you want.
Yeah,
or that kind of thing.
It's
the Obres with like the 6 scopes and the 12 flashlights. Like it's doable. Like it's more sandbox like.
Yeah, it really is a special game, and I hope it will be remembered as that and have a legacy, even if it doesn't end up panning out and some other new kind of what happened with PUBG, I guess, if they do fall off. I don't think they will, but who knows. I mean, that's the interesting thing about Fortnite is like they kind of added like their own twist to it in a way, like and then it just like kind of just grew from there. But yeah, we'll see. I'm as well excited to see what Warzone brings to the table.
Exactly. There's something about like, and we all say it all the time, right? There's something about Tarkov I don't think anybody even really quite put their finger on. It's the combination of all of it, right? It's like it's partly the grindiness, but it's partly the satisfaction. It's partly like the map design. It's partly like the pacing of the game. How I feel like the game's designed in such a way that you can camp, but it's not efficient. It's not like time efficient to do so. So you're kind of incentivized to move through the map, and like the timers kind of put you under pressure a bit, and like there's so much to learn, and the systems are so complicated. Like for all of its bad points, right, and the development and bugs or whatever, like there's something about the full package.
Yeah, as a whole, for sure,
that makes it really special. And I think it always has been like that, and it just changes form as we go along. Like it's different now than it was, in the alpha. It feels different based on what everybody said, but it's kind of not necessarily better or worse. It just is a different experience. So some people prefer the old experience, some people prefer the new experience, but it's still managed to keep that magic. And like people still keep playing every wipe, right? It's like even people who complain and complain and complain and complain, they always come back and they play the next wipe every time, even if they only just get to level 42 or whatever. It's like it's got that consistent player base, which maybe people aren't playing the end game for 6 months solid, but people play 2 months and then put the game down. Like not necessarily anything wrong with that, right? Like, because BSG haven't created a game that people are able to play 12 hours a day for literal all eternity isn't necessarily a fault on them. I think sometimes we hold the game in an extraordinarily high standard, notwithstanding the bugs and other things that we think should be fixed, but just in terms of like end game design and that kind of thing.
Yeah, no, I get you.
And other than competitive games, like how many other games do that?
And I guess that is kind of the highest standard, if you will, because they do have to maintain such a high standard because they run these competitive events where millions of dollars are at stake. I mean, imagine how much money they have invested in the whole event itself. Like, I can't even imagine. So
yeah, and even those games, right? Again, I've like come back to Dota again. Like all I'm seeing on my feed, because my Twitter started showing me loads of stuff ever since I went to Stockholm, and I'm like broadly interested, so I like click on them occasionally, and I've seen like stuff floating to the surface about TI about how Valve doesn't care and they're like milking the player base and this is the last TI, the games we're in now, and the competitive scene's dying and all this stuff, and I'm just like, I feel at home, It's not just us, right? It's not just us. Like, it's just communities and that kind of thing. So that sort of makes me feel a bit better about it. I think seeing another community like whine and moan about their issues too, like nothing's perfect. But yeah. Tarkov here to stay, I think, for the time being at least. We'll see what happens. They're alive and they're back and they're doing updates, and we'll just have to wait and see.
Yep.
Just have to wait and see.
Well, I think that concludes this episode of Lost Light Talk. I mean, ScavTalk. See you guys next week.
A Lost Light podcast.